If you are just joining us, welcome to the Emergence Presents an Introduction to Shamanic Brotherhood Initiations with Frank Mondeose. I'd like to introduce my collaborators, Attila and Spencer. And Attila, would you please give the world a little overview on what is the Emergence Brotherhood?
Welcome to this creation by the Emergence Brotherhood. As you all probably know at this point, the Emergence Brotherhood is a movement, and more specifically, it's a 3-month journey that is upcoming on September 7th, going into early December. That has an online component and an in-person component that is designed to really unlock the deepest gifts, the deepest soul gifts that every brother has to offer to the world. Spencer. Yeah. And this creation has been a long time coming, and it would not be possible without our wisdom keepers. Our wisdom keeper, Bruce Lyon, our wisdom keeper, Pat McCabe, and our fucking goddamn awesome wisdom keeper, Frank Mondeose, who has been our soul brother, who has had our back for so long, urging us on to realize the full potential of the man that we are. So we are so honored to offer you this co-creation, partly to introduce you more deeply to our wisdom keeper, who has touched our lives in so many ways, and partly to also give you a little bit of taste of the emergence, the kind of experience that you can actually expect from the Brotherhood journey.
Of every human being, men specifically, initiations into warriorhood, into adulthood, into manhood. And in most ways, those rites of passage have been lost to the ages. And it's in various schools and with teachers like Frank Mondeose that we've gotten to learn more about rites of passage and how to bring them back into the world. And indeed, this sort of journeying and this sort of ritual is exactly what we intend to have unfolding in Emergence. And Frank, if you are still with us, we don't have you on video. There he is. Frank, thank you so much for coming with us today and for teaching us so much about initiation and rites of passage. I'd love to hand it over to you to teach the guys.
You're welcome. Thank you, everybody, for attending and for your interest. Thank you, bros, for the invitation and the honoring position of wisdom keeper. I like to say godfather. It's all the same, I guess. Being Italian, right? So, today what I have to share, the brothers reached out to me and they were speaking about their vision. And they asked me to paint a map of what I call integrity or coming to wholeness. And for me, the major part of that are rites of passage in order to reclaim the lost parts of ourselves that we abandoned or gave up or just lost belief in ourselves because of the conditioning and or the lessons that we've picked up along the way as a youth growing up. So I want to give you a big picture framework of what 5 modern rites of passage are for spiritual development. And we are using this in the context of brotherhood, but this map can be used for if you want to be a good parent, if you want to be a better beloved, if you want to be a loyal brother to the brotherhood. So although these rites of passage are not specific to brotherhood necessarily, we can use them, and this is how we will be using them. And if you come on any journey with myself or Ista or Remember Brothers or Emergence, I'm pretty sure that the map given to go through the personal development or the personal expansion journey is overlaid on this map. So I want to begin by saying that I have 20 minutes to deliver this. Usually I deliver the content I have planned to deliver in an hour and a half. So you can understand that this really is a taster. It's to give you a vision. And we're in the spiritual world, and a lot of the spiritual world and a lot of people in the spiritual world, they give a lot of like woo-woo stuff. It's like stuff that you could hear makes you feel good, but really it's difficult to really grasp in order to implement to change your life. So what I'm offering you is in the realm of pragma. I like, when I teach anything in the realms of spirituality, I like things that can overlay on our personal lives and actually have pragmatic results in our personal life without like the whole rainbows and unicorn process. So for me, these 5 rites of passage are the guiding post for all the teachings I do, like I said, whether it be in the Brotherhood work or the ISTA. And where I got this map is from the school called Venus Rising Association for Transformation. This is led by Star Hawk and her late husband, Brad Collins. And they are a school that supports individuals to, like I said, come into greater spiritual awakening, come into integrity. For me, integrity it means being whole. As long as we are not whole, we're not integral, we're not full, we're not complete. So when we're not full and complete and we see ourselves as lacking, we will constantly go to the outside world for validation. So this work is really about creating your own healing and expansion path. And Venus Rising goes through each of these rites of passage by explaining the rite of passage over a few days, and then using shamanic breath work as the vehicle into diving into non-ordinary reality. So interdimensional play kind of thing. And I'll get more into that in a moment. And this shamanic, through going through shamanic breath work, it opens up aspects of ourselves we either had repressed, suppressed, forgotten, and it supports us to unveil those either aspects of our personality or of our soul that it's asking you to hear or see, so that you can put light on the shadow or the darkness that you've been holding, either due to ignorance, a lack of consciousness, not knowing better. It's not something to be ashamed of. And we must all recognize that we are all in the process of coming into greater integrity, wholeness, and spiritual awakening. So I want to go through the 5 rites of passage. I'm going to give them to you rather quickly. I will give you what the rite of passage is, a bit of an explanation of the rite of passage, and then we'll pause for a short moment for like a couple of questions and answers on the topic. And then what we will do is we will enter a short shamanic breathwork session. Usually when I do shamanic breathwork, they last anywhere between an hour and an hour and a half. Today we're going to run a quickie, a 15-minute breath work to open up our system. Blake and the brothers are going to give the questions repeat the questions he had at the beginning around freedom, love, and purpose. And these are the questions intentionally that you're going to hold as you go into the breath work to see if our soul or our higher self has a message for you. So I'll get into the bits and bytes about shamanic breath work in a bit. But before that, I want to really start to give you that map of the rites of passage. So the first rite of passage is recognizing, actually not recognizing, it's awakening to the spiral path. When we grow up in the ordinary culture or ordinary reality, we truly believe that life runs in a linear perspective, meaning we have to go from point A to point B, and then point B leads us to point C, D, E, F. So it's like a straight line. And often that looks like I need to get a formal education, elementary school, high school. Then if I want to like advance in my career, I will have to get my graduate degree, and then meet a beloved, and then make babies, and then get the white house with the white picket fence, and then get the dream job, old age, retirement, death, and so on. So we go through this life as though it's a linear path. But when it comes to healing, expansion, spirituality, and coming to self-gnosis, then it's really not about a linear path. It's the understanding that we actually living a spiral path. And what does that mean? It means that life starts at the center and then has cycles. So you have your first cycle that goes around, and then after that cycle, it expands, and the cycles keep getting larger around each other. And what's happening here is that as long as we haven't picked up the messages, lessons that our soul is attempting to give us, because our soul transmits information oftentimes in ways that we have a difficulty understanding. Have you ever worked on a project so much and you put in so much energy and you felt like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, I know this, my personality, my will is all telling me I need to be working in this direction, and somehow, no matter how much good intention, heart, love, commitment you have, that project just can't materialize. I like to look at this as the soul putting roadblocks in the way for us, because there might be something we are not seeing in the moment, because we're so wrapped up with how things should be that we're not paying attention for things how they could be. And so the soul will oftentimes put roadblocks for us. And what I see that when those things happen is when I stop and I pay attention. And these things tend to happen every time if we don't really come to the awareness of the message or the lesson that our soul is attempting to give us. So if we continuously do the same thing, we will find ourselves hitting the same roadblock. If we go through the process and we have an awakening, we have what I call an aha moment that shifts the perspective and gets us into a greater alignment with our soul purpose, the spiral continues to expand and expand. So this is what's going on. We will repeat our mistakes until we understand them and make the proper transformation. In a nutshell, that's what it is to awaken to the spiral path, is the acknowledgement that we can actually jump timelines when we are working with our soul understanding, and that we are not so preoccupied by saying I have to do A, to do B, to do C, to do D, because all is accessible at the same time. Like in quantum physics, they'll say that every possibility is happening at the same time. So that means me as a millionaire and me as a homeless person or me as the janitor is all happening at the same time. It really just depends on what vibrational tendency we are tuned into. And that happens based on how we're meeting the world and moving beyond our wounds and our limitations to really call in our creator, our manifester. So that is the spiral path. The second rite of passage is diving into